In this episode of National Treasures, we are honored to have a conversation with Cayman Islands pioneer musicians, Bunny and Edlin Myles.
Tell me about Cayman when you felt this drive to start to get into music.
Well, let me tell you, I started back when I was 14 years old.
What was happening in style when you were 14?
When I was 14, I was just listening to the musicians back then.
Said you love me forever.
My brother was one of the musicians back then, and I was just inspired by having the first hand from somebody close to me as a musician. That was my first inspiration.
So what's the age difference between the two of you?
7 years.
So this is Big Brother. Everything Big Brother does, you follow. Is that it? He tell you to jump in. He said, let's do construction. You into construction. He said, let's do music. You're into music.
Well, you know, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less. I always had a big brother to follow. You know, a lot of people don't have big brothers, so I had a big brother to follow.
In the early 1950s, the number of musical records brought into the Cayman Islands began to grow. We learn of a man who started sourcing musicians to play on the island.
There were no bands either, local bands. So Mr. Namar used to bring in people from Jamaica, musicians, and then they would make up a band like that, you know, and play around. And Edlin Powers was the king of guitar those days. Him and Charlie Pride.
Okay.
Listen to Elvis Presley and people like that, you know. You know.
Back then, I used to play with Mr. Nemard and a man used to call Bo Weeble. They were like, could be my grandparents and grandfather at the time. And I remember when we used to like play like every other Saturday. We used to play at the beach club. And those days I was playing Yellowbird and Banana Boat and Tally Banana and all this. The old folk music which came from the era of Jamaica.
Okay.
We used to listen to that from Jamaica. I used to play like at Beach Club every other Saturday at Beach Club, and then we used to drive to Tortuga Club. And those days were terrible days. When I say terrible, the road was so narrow, and then it was nothing about paved roads. It was all sand roads and the sand. That whenever we get to Tortuga, we had to take a shower before we could go play because we didn't have no air conditioning in the van and the instruments and everything in the van, and we used to be covered with sand, white sand off of the road.
What were you playing to? Locals or foreign?
Foreigners back then, tourists.
They want to hear Yellowbird.
They want, and Banana Boat and so forth, you know.
And you're how old again?
I was 14 then.
So you're not supposed to be in a school. Your mother wants you to go there and play music.
I was in school. But this was, remember, I was on Saturday weekends and stuff. And this was on the weekend.
What, did you get the blessing from your parents, or this is?
Of course, yes.
The Myles brothers grew up in settings that supported music. Yet Edlin was most impressed by his brother.
The inspiration came from my brother playing, and then I realized, if he can play, maybe I can play too. And I'll never forget the first time I got a guitar to play was when he was going to sea at 16 or 17, I think 16 he went to sea. And I cried like a baby, man, because he's my big brother. And he left his guitar, one of his guitars with me. Of course, that was a 6-string guitar, and I changed that into a 4-string bass guitar. In those days, nobody heard about a bass guitar. So I bought some bass strings, and I put it on the 6-string guitar, and I started to play the bass guitar.
Who taught you?
I taught myself.
We all taught ourselves.
Music teachers were far and in between. Not only that, guitars were rare and expensive.
First guitar I made was about 6 or 7 years old.
Bunny's house is filled with several handmade guitars he's crafted over the years. The brothers would eventually work in construction, but also grew in their musical aspirations, maintaining a consistent professional career, making significant contribution to the local music scene over the years. We learn about the special people in their lives who made a difference.
And then I used to stay by Teacher Mark Field, who was my teacher. Teacher Mark Field he was into everything. And the thing about it, I was living at his house, his parents' house. So he had somebody, the bigger boys at school, make a guitar for me. A miniature guitar, but it wasn't really a true guitar, but it's cheap of a guitar. And then around about 10 years old, I think I got an old guitar from my father, you know.
And was your father at sea? Is he bringing this as a gift?
Yeah, I used to go to sea and all that.
Yeah, this is my understanding is that the Caymanians would go to sea, collect the records, bring them to Cayman, give them to their family, and then we start to get this influence of country music.
Yeah.
What was it, country?
Most of the country.
Most of the country. But I remember, I can recall that one of the first guitars that Bunny made was out of a cheese box.
Gee.
Yeah, you know, those days you have the cheese come in it was very flexible, round, and he used that as a base of the guitar, as the body of the guitar. And I remember, and I can recall, one of the first guitars that he made was of a cheese box.
You were learning from him, and then you start to sing.
Well, I started my own band at age 16. When I was 16, I started a band.
But before you start a band, there's some day that you wake up that you have the confidence to sing, either to your mother around the table.
Oh, well, I used to sing.
And somebody says, I like it, or I don't like it.
Well, let me tell you how that go. I mean, I started music from I was 14, but I was singing. They used to have a little store called Marin Brand Store. Right, that would be right in front of Phillips Electrical right now. I used to go there evening after I'd come out of school and I finished my chores. Lie amongst the chicken feed, sacks and the brown sugar, these big brown sacks of sugar and flour and stuff, and I used to sing for Paradise Plum Candies. And that routinely every evening, after I finished doing what I had to do at home, I would go there to get my Paradise Plum Candies. I used to sing.
So this is somebody who is walking by that says, or like you said, and they are buying the candy and giving it to you.
No, the people in the store, when they come into the store.
Oh, that's how you get paid.
Yeah, they paid me with Paradise Plum Candy.
But in reality now, this is not a job. Everybody's going to sea. So at 16 you left?
Yeah.
Cayman?
Yes, but I would play music before that. I would play that from 11 years old.
And then now you come from this little small island and you go to the big city. Now you got to see some concerts. You went to some bar that had a big...
I played in some of the... I played it when I was in Brazil. I went into the Torta Bar or the club, and they had the band in there. But I could play.
How do you get into their band?
Get around the bandstand and get interested in the music. The musicians see they interested and they would talk, you know, even though they're Spanish or Portuguese, but, you know, speak English as well.
Okay.
So speaking to them, I tell them I play guitar, you know, and I could play guitar and used to play merengues and all that kind of stuff, and that's what they do. It's a Spanish country, and so I could play merengue, and I showed them that I could play merengue, and they invite me in the bandstand that I play, you know, and I could play, and the flavor of my playing was different from theirs, but it was in tune with them, you know. That every time I go to come from one port to the next, I go there. I find myself on the bandstand playing other songs.
Putting in the hard work to learn to play music served as a way for Bunny Myles to make friends all over the world.
You play by ear, is that right?
Yes.
You play by ear.
Oh, yeah, as well.
Okay, and just in terms of instruments, you play electric, or your choice is electric.
Yeah.
But you can play an acoustic guitar, you can strum.
Yeah.
You play bass, is that right?
Yeah, well, I don't play much of that anymore, but that's what I
You're and
I'm on the front line.
We see you as the front man,
yeah,
and we see you as the backbone. Just in terms of how Cayman views you, we see you as very reserved in the back. So today, this is the first conversation I really had with you because you're the one that is more on the front line. Do you think people perceive you as quiet and you as very out and about?
No, nowadays people.
Yeah, well,
Those days.
you know, I always had the knack for, because I used to idolize the Motown guys like James Brown and Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave. They were my idols when I was growing up. And in terms of American music. That's why some of my signature songs are coming from them, like Soul Man and Get Up, Get Down, and I Feel Good, the sort of thing. Because I used to idolize James Brown, and I used to try to do everything that I saw him do, doing all the split and the dance and the shuffle and everything, that I got the name of Cayman James Brown, and Cayman Premier Entertainer for more than 20 years. That sort of stigma just motivated me more to dig more into my music. As the lead singer, you have to do a lot of genres of music, and I found myself doing these genres of music, but my premier music is R&B music and soul music.
Edlin Myles would go on to cover hundreds of songs by numerous international hit recording artists, while he and his brother wrote and produced original material on the island over the years. It wasn't easy in the beginning, but Bunny's efforts pioneered professionally recorded music in Cayman in 1967.
In the early years, there was no bands, no local bands. And only 2 local bands started at the same time. You heard about the Mashiani band?
No.
Yeah.
Mashiani.
Yes.
Mashianis.
So we're all West Bay guys, and they were fantastic. You know. In 1963, and the Cayman Airs, both bands formed actually the same week. I was a member of the Cayman Airs, founding member, and the band started at Mango Tree.
Okay.
And that's where the band's formed. So, same person, Mr. Buddy Macfield, Teacher Macfield, like I said, he was into everything. And he was a band leader of the Mashianis. He put their band together. Teacher Macfield managed the band, right? At the same time, the Cayman Airs formed, and the Mashianis would play like Down Below Horizon and Inferno, and we used also to do the same, you know? But they were American, but they had what they call a green card. And they every now and then each had to go away for a period of time. And when they go away, I would play the guitar in Lacaz's place, and even my band, because that's how we lived good, you know. And Elon Bars, I used to play the bass, and Elon Bars used to play the guitar, lead guitar.
In 1967, the Cayman Airs embarked on a bold journey. With no recording facilities in Cayman then, they traveled to Jamaica to record their music.
When we came back from the Bahamas, a month after we came back, Tanner Skull from Jamaica, in Hargreaves, came and Chuck Rain and the other 3 guys took us to Jamaica to do the first recording on this island. I have the album in my house. 4 of us, 4 Caymanians, except the drummer, 4 Caymanians.
The first live recorded album happened soon after.
Royal Palms at Le Jardin.
Yeah.
Le Jardin nightclub.
This is live from off the floor.
Live in the dance club, in the nightclub. Somebody came in and recorded us live.
Everett Leacock.
Everett Leacock did that. He used to manage the club, Le Jardin. We used to play there regularly.
They played pretty much all the other spots where one could find good live music back in that time.
Inferno, Tortuga, Beach Club. The audience is filled with visitors, tourists, and Caymanians, and everybody's blending together. Everybody is there's a Cayman has changed a lot in the past 50 years. Now I feel like there's a us and them mentality. So, but what do you think happened? What changed? If we were all getting together and high fiving.
What I feel changed is everybody should come and listen to the bands, but then people come in with a record player and record changers, and they start playing records, and you know.
Is that what you feel too? That the DJ took over?
I think that back then, there were so many different venues,
Different places.
I mean, I can and then I can recall that there was at least more than 15 different venues to play.
Mm-hmm.
And those days you had to make plans for the weekend. Unlike now, you have to wait on the weekend, say, where can you go? Because there's no place to go. Back then, you had to really, on Monday, I said, well, this weekend I'm going to Apollo 11. I'm going to Eastern Queen. I'm going to Eastern Star. I'm going to Club Inferno. I'm going to Blue Horizon. I'm going to Galleon Beach. I'm going to Royal Palms. Now, the few venues that are there, they only cater to maybe a 2-piece band or a 3-piece band. So it's kind of minimized the live bands.
Well, I mean, cost is a big factor. If the guy who owns a bar says, well, I have to pay the drummer, the bass man, the this, how much a DJ cost? Oh, he's the one guy, and he brings his laptop and
yeah, but
pay himself.
They want to pay the DJ what they paying the band now.
Okay, and it can't work. You
can't pay one man what you want to pay 4 or 5 guys.
And then there's obviously the time to rehearse and the time to practice and
exactly
and the DJ can't do the split. You can do the split.
Exactly, you know what I'm saying? That is true.
But I mean, you were always in the front. Were you always in the front because you were the singer at one point? Did that change?
Only after we went to the Bahamas. My band, the Cayman Islands, went to the Bahamas for 2 weeks.
You were in the Bahamas.
You got on this. That was a short time, but you got to understand there was 2 different bands. They were playing in a different band.
And you were in a different band
at that time.
Okay, yeah. But your band went to the Bahamas.
Yeah, this is a big deal there.
In 1967, Bunny's band, the Cayman Airs, was invited to play in the Bahamas. They were so good that they were asked to stay for 6 months.
7 of us went there, and 3 of them came back after 2 months. It was me, Calvin Hooker, George Whips, all the senior drummer, bass player, guitarist, and the keyboard player. That was the 4 of us. We stayed there, and we had, I had to say that we were the most favorite band in the Bahamas. That's why we stayed 6 months. And we played for Lyndon Pinwin when he got elected as president. We played for him. We played all over the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, the people were very receptive. I mean, it really was appreciative of us. When we came back from the Bahamas, also, the people in Cayman was the same.
They were becoming genuine international stars.
It went on like that, and the band changed. I formed Regeneration band. And from I found the Regeneration band, it has been that band till now.
But you're the front man of Regeneration. Yeah. So, was there any competition between you two?
Well, you guys say no.
Any jealousy?
No. What kind of what's jealousy? In other words, that or the thing. Listen, we always work together. We're close, and even though when I had my band, I started a band called the Soulful Flames, and that the original members of that was like myself, Ray Myles, Alan Myles, Tabby Alan Myles, Lamy Seymour, and Carl Howell. Later down, we brought in the late Greggy. We brought him into the band. Those days we had Humble and the Meek, and we were like the junior band to Humble and the Meek and the Cayman Airs at the time. So the Humble and the Meek member, one of the members, Richard E. Banks, said that he would like to manage our band, and we said okay, and we accepted his proposal, and 2 months after his management, the band just dissolved, and that's when I joined Regeneration. I came to Bunny with Regeneration. At that time, Cayman Airs had disbanded, so became...
So how old officially is the Regeneration band? Is this the longest lasting band?
It is.
Yes.
At the time of this recording, the Regeneration band had spanned 50-plus years in the Cayman Islands. They'd seen things change locally, even as members of the band would.
The people you're playing for, you said some are locals. Cayman is a Christian community. So the same people you see on the dance floor on Saturday night, they're the same ones going to church on Sunday morning. Were you involved in church? You played church music?
At 11 years old, I was behind the pulpit up in Savannah with Miss Jerry and Mr. Innes.
And Steve Martarga. We played a couple of times with Steve Martarga, and we used to back him a lot.
And they were Christian people, and I used to play the guitar as a small boy, but they used to play guitar behind it.
Today, they look back on what matters most to them.
The highlight of my experience in my music was I went to New Orleans and I performed to, it was 15,000 people. I went there on a convention trip and I had opportunities to perform, and I had standing ovation, and they would make me come off a stage. And I just went there, no rehearsal or nothing, but the band was so good in New Orleans that I just named the song and they were right on cue, and that was my biggest highlight. The other highlight that I had was when I went to Honduras. I went to Honduras as a guest artist with a member of Justice, and that was another big highlight. And I performed in Jamaica a couple of times with Toots and the Maytels. They were having a show, so I was on stage with them, and then on stage with Ken Boot in Mandeville. They were the highlights of my entertainment years. Plus, with Regeneration, we traveled quite a few places. Did some recording in Jamaica as well.
Jamaica, I went
But he did more
Costa Rica and all that. We played the government sent us to Costa Rica to promote LAXA airline. That's a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
So before Cayman Airways, there was LAXA Airlines, and they were doing their flights from Cayman. Where were they flying to mostly?
We were flying to Costa Rica then at that time, but that's why they sent us to Costa Rica too.
Back then, sending the band to Costa Rica would help establish a link between that country and the Cayman Islands. The musicians would also gain the love of the Costa Rican people.
2 weeks in the President Hotel playing music.
This is something that stands out to you in your memory of,
Our best band that they had in the President Hotel, right? And they opened for us,
And of course, you're a foreign band, so the local band usually open for the foreign act.
This band, right?
Yeah.
You were 70s band, they were like 12. And they, the Spanish bands, they're fantastic. All the halls and stuff. And they opened. And when they started to play, we were like, we're not going on there. We're not going to play, because we can't match that.
yeah.
But we had to play. So we played, and the biggest surprise was that they didn't want to go back on. When they were time for them to go on, they wouldn't go on. They say, no, you're going, because we played. The advantage that we had is that we play everything. Cayman musicians play everything. There was no reggae, then it was rock steady and ska.
Playing diverse forms of musical styles did help the band succeed as a cover band.
But in our genre, we as a road band, we have to play all types of music. And even now, we still go back to some oldies. We play some rock steadies and ska. When the people in the mood and on the dance floor, we go back to some ska music.
What about the opportunities that somebody was sitting in the audience one night and said, man, come back with me to New York? You have anything that comes to mind to say, I should have done that, I should have went left, should have went right?
Well, an opportunity that a big regret is that our drummer was from Jamaica, was an 80-year-old man. Very good drummer, fantastic drummer. But he had a bad habit. Drinking.
Yes.
We played in Costa Rica, and one of the big men had a recording studio. He was set up for all kind of stuff, And he heard the band play. He wanted to book us to do some shows in Costa Rica. And we sat down on our table. Man came in paper and sat down to sign us up to go on television and to do all kinds of things, And this guy, he comes in drunk. He wasn't playing at that time, But he was out having a fire and did some with himself, drinking and having fun. Fisher came in and drunk, when somebody was drunk, he can't read with them, And the man had all his paper and spread out on the table. And this guy had a drink on it, and nobody would go over and talk to him and take words and some of the papers and stuff like that. And the man got up and shoved everything to left. You know. Otherwise, from that, if that didn't happen, I don't know. That would maybe we would be talking to you now. It would be something else. You know.
You think you missed any big shots? Or are you happy with?
Well, in my time in music, I came upon like more than 3 times. An individual would come to me and said, we would like to take you abroad because we like what you're doing. We think that you could be successful because what we see the American artists doing in the United States, you're doing it too. But back then I was working. I had my stated job and stuff and my young family and stuff like that. I said, to leave that off to take a chance on that, it would have been a sacrifice I would have to make. And I decided, 3 times I decided not to. And I don't really regret that because I think that I've done well for myself as doing what I did. And so I really don't have a major regret to that point. But I would say that I really think that at the place and time, if Cayman had the encouragement somehow like how, or the musicians had the encouragement like how other countries' musicians had, I might have been more successful in the entertainment business. I personally feel that way.
Do you feel that we applaud each other? Where in Jamaica there's an idea that I think that they use for their own benefit, and they say, hey, we're going to put you on a platform for our entertainment, and after a while, after you get your 15 minutes of fame, you move on, and they put somebody else on the.
Let me tell you,
but Cayman is
my old Caymanians, they will take it hard to support their own. It's really, if you go and perform and they applaud you, you got to tap yourself on the shoulder and say, I've done something well.
But was I always, this is how I know the audience to be, I'm asking, was this always the case, or did something change?
Change, because I remember when I used to go on stage, people would line up to see me go on stage. And, back then I was, in my opinion, I was amateur high, but people used to appreciate what I did on stage. Up to now, people still appreciate what I do on stage. But back then, the support was always there. You have the 1 or 2 person that will criticize, and you're going to find that in everywhere. But I think that we need to be more supportive. Cayman people need to be more supportive of their own, because one thing you can say about the other nationalities, they're supportive of their own, and particularly in the music industry, no matter what they say or what they do on stage, that support is still there from that particular nationality.
In any industry, there's competition.
Yeah.
In the music industry in Cayman, there was an organization that was formed called the Cayman Music and Entertainment Association.
Let me tell you about the Cayman Music and Entertainment Association. I'm the founding member of the Cayman Music and Entertainment Association. I formed that association, I think it was in 1981. Myself, Errol Watley, Johnny and Ray Banks, Gary Eubanks, and the late Mark Farland. For 15 years, I was the president.
For what purpose did you form the?
Because I wanted to bring the musicians together, and that's why I formed it as a non-profit organization. And I'm saying if I knew that what it turned into, I would have called it a union. But we formed it as a non-profit organization, and it was for the betterment of to bring all the musicians and entertainers. So I formed that to bring everybody together as one. Over the years, it worked okay for many years. It worked okay, but different presidents. Then the change came with different presidents, and now, to be quite honest, I'm not 100% sure at what stage it is. I'm still an honorary member of the association because I'm the founding member, but I'm personally not happy with the way that my brainchild, the way it is going and what it's turned into.
But there is obviously space for so many people in the Caribbean. We can look to Jamaica. And there's space for Beanie Man, there is space for Bounty Killer, there is space for Sizzler, there's space for Capleton. Why put the pressure on yourself to fight to say, I have to be the number one? In the best case scenario, you burn out all your energy and you're stressed because you have to be the guy to perform every week. What advice would you give to younger musicians for Cayman's generation to kickstart the music scene?
I've always said, let's keep live music alive. And the only way you can keep live music alive is to encourage the younger generation to play music, physical, to play the music. Don't just take a computer set and spin a track. That's not playing music, because then what?
I would say,
that's not talent.
If they're playing for gig and they're using it and something goes wrong with the computer, they're in trouble, because if that goes out. Back in time when we were playing music, the only time that you heard a disco play was when the band took a break. They just play as fillers. Now the disco is now headlining, and it seems like when they stop playing, that's when the band gets to play. And it has a lot to do with the generation too, the generation gap too. I think that has something to play with it as well, because the older folks that would really appreciate live music, they don't go that much. And by them not going out that much, as someone owning a bar, a nightclub or whatever, they're looking at the high end, and they say that if people not coming out, then they can afford to hire a band. The older people will stay home and watch TV, while the younger people,
that's the competition. Yeah. You're competing against Netflix, against YouTube. You can get a lot of entertainment, $1 million productions with one click of a button.
Yeah.
What are you doing on stage? You do a lot. You know that you're considered somebody who's very flashy. You know that, right?
I am.
That we see you as somebody who's very, very flashy. Is it an influence from James Brown himself?
Well,
or is it that?
I have my own feeling about the way I go on stage, because I always tell my band members, when you're on stage, all eyes are on you. All eyes are on you. Once you're on stage, I mean, sometimes you're not a good singer. And I always say this because I use James Brown and Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger is one of the worst singers in the world, but let me tell you, he has a stage performance that he sold out 7 months in advance. It's not what he says, how he do it. And sometimes when you're on stage, it's not what you're saying, but if you can mix the two together, people are not hearing what you're saying, they're watching what you're doing. And that is what makes you real popular. And that's what James Brown did, Mick Jagger did. A lot of the big singers, that's the way that they got their popularity. And that has been my niche. I say, well, I know how to hold my audience. I know how to interact with them, because don't care how good a singer you are. If you stand still and you sing, people's attention span is 15 minutes the max. If you're a good singer, and don't care how good you are, if you're in one position, standing still, singing, your listener's going to say, they're going to get up and they move around. And because their attention span, you're singing the same thing, they're listening all the time, but they're going to get up and move around. Now, if that same singer is on stage and he's singing and he's doing this, he's moving this, and he's interacting with the audience and giving them the feel, letting them feel like we're part of what they do, that's the difference.
Yeah, have you ever seen him do a bad performance?
No.
You ever critique him?
No, I just wonder sometimes if he get down there, maybe.
When get back up, I don't go down unless I can come back up. But it's my energy. When I'm on stage, I have a different perspective of what I'm doing, because I'm in my own world. And
I do think that the Cayman has to make a choice though. We appreciate the ability of you being able to perform the hits from James Brown and some of these disco songs, being able to perform the country music. But what about Cayman's music? If Jamaica has reggae and Costa Rica has a Spanish influence, we have the Swanky Kitchen Band, which we consider some folk music. But do you feel that Cayman has its own music? How are we going to get there?
I've been trying to organize all through the years, you know, but you think about reggae, then what you can get, there's not like reggae. What you can get there's not like funk.
For years, we've been trying to come up with an original song.
Yeah.
It turns into either a soca or a reggae or a calypso or it's one of those categories. It falls into one of those categories. So Cayman really don't have a national song. I tell you the truth. It don't really have, so I could try to do as close as they can with folk song or whatever. But it turned into the same thing as a soca or a merengue or something, which is already there from some other country.
Who do you think is the most successful artist that's from Cayman? Who has made the most money from music in the Cayman music scene?
Barefoot Man.
How did Barefoot Man come in to take over our music scene?
Well, let me explain this, buddy. Barefoot Man came here at a time when the tourists really want to know, is it really true that he's bare feet? That was his take.
A hook.
Yeah, and he never changed from that because they were so curious. Everyone want to see Barefoot Man. They really want to find out if a man performing bare feet. Yeah, and that's how he built his repertoire. And then he had such a connection with the Holiday Inn. In those days, most people that came to Cayman went to the Holiday Inn. So he had a built-in audience there. He made well on that because Barefoot Man played everything in three songs, but he did well. He's a good entertainer. You can't knock that from him. When I say good entertainer, he knew how to talk to his audience, and he played the music that the audience want, not what he want. And that's a big problem with a lot of Cayman musicians. They want to play what they like instead of playing what the audience want to hear. And that's the Barefoot Man. I would think that he made the most money off of music in Cayman.
In 2025 and beyond, how do local musicians balance the need to pay their bills by playing crowd-pleasing, often international hits, with the ambition and deep conflicting desire to perform music that truly reflects their local island identity and personal stories? What does it mean for an artist to sacrifice authenticity for financial survival in the Cayman Islands? And how does that shape the evolution of local culture?
Well, we encourage young musicians to keep live music alive because people that come here as tourists or whatever, they want to see live music. They don't want to go to a place where just discos playing. They want to see talent. They want to see people on stage and performing. Whenever tourists come to a country, I went to Panama a couple months ago, and it's the same thing more or less like how Cayman is. You can find places with entertainment, but there's no bands. There are people behind a box and just spinning tapes and records or whatever. Polished music, when a DJ play this polished music, and they have an advantage that they can play anything. The band will have that advantage. They have to be up on rehearsing every day.
So just trying to encourage the young children to come to school. I got a lot of them there that can play music and play instruments. Trying to put a little youth band together, to encourage it. But then sometimes I think about it that maybe there's no market for it.
You put that together and then there's no place to play, and that's discouraging. Right. So people that build in these big hotels and whatnot, they need to put like a ballroom, put a bandstand within the project that they're doing, that you can have bands in there that are house bands and rotate the bands around. That would encourage live music again. I think that would.
So the message is to keep the music alive.
You don't want it to die, No. That's what I'm still playing.
Music is love, and love is music. And it's the most universal language there is.
If you don't know, there's two signature styles. Mr. Bunny has all his shades all the time. Morning, evening, night, midnight, power go out. He still has all his shades. Mr. Edlin, always doing the splits. How old are you, sir?
I'll be 72 in March.
As of today, 72. Still doing the split.
Yeah.
I wish I can do that as well when I get up there. Thank you guys for a great interview. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Really nice to see you. Thank you for all of your contributions to the music scene.
This concludes our session with pioneer Cayman Islands musicians Edlin and Bunny Myles. We're pleased to leave you with 1967 music samples from the earliest recordings of the Cayman Airs.
Said you love me forever, like girl, 'cause you love another. Morning, noon, and night, I've been so lonely. Heartaches I cause by you only. Maybe Grand Cayman, Cayman Brown, little Cayman everywhere. Dancing and prancing, your lips are here to stay. See the calypso man, see the calypso man. See the calypso man, see the calypso man. He's a calypso man, calypso man, calypso man, yeah, calypso man, calypso. What does it matter? Tomorrow may be dead and gone. It could be later, whether we're right or wrong. So hear what I say, white or black, it's a fact, we'll all be gone someday. Guess everybody knows, when they look in my face it shows that I'm trying to please someone. All my resistance is gone. It's impossible to go on. Impossible. Impossible. Impossible.